Okay, can we see my screen? Is it legible enough? Is it legible enough? Should I zoom in a bit? I can do that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, all right, perfect, perfect. I use very high resolution, so just want to be sure we are fine. All right, so I have just logged into my AWS account. This is my personal account. I manage a lot of other accounts. So this is my personal AWS account. I mean, once you have an AWS account and you log in, this is about what you get, okay? Now, as far as the console is concerned, this is where you access any AWS service, okay? Let me say, yeah, I can say any AWS service. It's just that some services are mostly available by CLI, but I think for the purposes of this event, we can say any AWS services. So you can see the services are categorized according to the different things they do. So you have the compute. When we talk about compute, it's more about things related to, you can say servers. Yeah, you can basically say servers. Compute is related to servers. We have blockchain, we have analytics, end user computing, IoT. I know we have some IoT people in the house, so you have services as far as IoT is concerned. Security, identity, and compliance. We have management and governance, storage, databases. There's a host of database services. Migration and transfer. There are also container services. There are services for media, mobile, machine learning, networking, and content delivery. And yeah, I think today we'll talk more also about developer tools, because I know we have a lot of developers in the house. Because we have cost management tools as well, robotics, business applications. I mean, so as for the services, it's a lot of services. And you know, and I know in the beginning I get confusing to what service does what and where do I even start. Okay, I think that mostly for developers, okay, and I understand most of us will be developers. You want to look more at the developer tools, okay. The developer tools specifically, you want to be looking at code commit. So code commit is like the Git version. Is, you can say it's like GitHub, to put it that way, simplified. So underlining is Git, and it's just the management for Git. We will come back and look at these services in a bit more detail. But right now, I just want to give a good overview of the console. So this is where you can access different services. As you access the services, you get the history of some of them here. So you can see some of the services I have accessed as far as this account is concerned. Now let me come to the top right section of the console. Now, yeah, there is the support center, AWS support. So if you have any issues on your account, or there's some questions you need, or whatever, you go to the support center and you can engage AWS based on what your issue might be. Now, the next, before the support, is the regions. So AWS is in, right now, I can't even get the count of all the regions. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, so over here, there are about 21 regions. So once you have an account, you can technically create resources in any of these regions. That is the power you have. So you can decide to put or spin up servers or set up a certain service in Cape Town. So Cape Town just came up, I think, 2 months ago, or two or 3 months ago. So that's South Africa. There's a region in South Africa. That's the only region in Africa anyway. I can decide to have some application in South Africa. I can decide to have some application in, let's say, London, another in the US, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, immediately you have the power to address the world, okay? But you just need to know that obviously, once you want to go a certain route, it comes with a certain associated cost you would need to know, and really whether your application you want to do, whether it's worth putting them in different regions. So it's all based on use case, okay? But just so you know, you can technically address any of these regions, okay? Now you can see I'm in Ireland right now. What I can advise you is, usually if you are in Ghana, let me say Ghana for instance, or in Africa, and you want to, and your workload or your application is for Africans, or is for your country or any country in Africa, unless you are actually in Cape Town, your best region is Europe. Now, this is for a number of reasons. You will choose region for a number of reasons. First of all, latency. So latency is how long it takes to reach your application from wherever the user accesses it from. Secondly, it's cost. Now, the same server in Europe would have a different price to the same server in Cape Town, okay? Currently, I can tell you Europe is cheaper than Cape Town, and some US regions, in fact, the US regions are the cheapest, I think 2 or 3 of them. Next, you come to the Europes, and then the Asia. I've not really done stuff at the Asia region, so I'm not sure what their pricing is like. But yeah, you want to, the main factors to consider is cost, latency, and then also some laws governing whatever application you are hosting. For example, if you are hosting, you are supposed to do some application which will be accessed by Europeans. I mean, the GDPR law for data kicks in, and yeah, there are a number of things to consider. If you are doing some application for people in the US, you want it hosted in the US, and yeah, so the law also governs where at times you want to host your application. So yeah, these are basically the regions, and it's just a click of a button to change region. So right now I'm changing to Frankfurt. So you can see right now I'm in Frankfurt. I can go ahead and then spin some servers or do whatever in Frankfurt, all from the same AWS console. I'll just come back to Europe. Yeah, so back in Europe. So at the top level, those are the main things to take notice of. Over here on the dashboard, yeah, you have the recently visited services. And in fact, there are great tutorials even right from here that you can work with to learn a couple of things. I mean, you can learn how to launch a virtual machine, register a domain, build a web app, connect to an IoT device, start a setting migration, build something using virtual servers. You still have some extra tutorials on websites and web apps, storage, databases, big data, machine learning, and DevOps, okay? One thing AWS has done very well is they have very good documentation, okay? I mean, most of my learnings, I just went into documentation and spent time with it to understand the service, okay? So their documentations are good, and it can be a very good point to learn a number of things. All right, so any questions so far? If you have a question, you can just possibly raise your hand. Any questions so far? But please feel free. I think as we go, you can always be putting questions in the chat and we will pick them up. Okay, I see Emmanuel, you have a question, right? Or was that raised a long time ago?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I have a question.
All right, please go ahead.
My question is, so do you always have to choose a region? And is it that the closer the region, the expensive it is, or what does the region really come to play in the cloud computing aspect? I don't really get the region side.
Okay, that's fine. Let me explain what the regions are. So regions, clearly, as you see from here, they are, let me just pull this down. Okay, so the regions you can see basically are, so regions mostly are countries. But when you take the US, for example, I mean, US is huge. So you have different states having their own region. So US, you have North Virginia, Ohio, Oregon. In Africa, we have Cape Town. Asia, we have Hong Kong. Europe, we have Paris and a few others. Now, the regions, in the regions, so the regions are the different countries where you have AWS presence. But in the regions, we have what we call availability zones, okay? So the availability zones are where the actual data centers sit, okay? So understand that, yes, we know this is the cloud anyway, but we all know for a fact that, well, it took me time to know that when we speak about the cloud, it's not like something is really hanging in the cloud somewhere. It's not abstract, okay? It's actually physically located on the ground somewhere, okay? But yeah, the term cloud is more for the fact that it's online and you don't need to know where it is, or you don't need to see where it is. You don't need to see the MTN data center to know that it's there. MTN can say they have the cloud, but you know MTN is a reach. And you can just walk there and know that that's where your stuff is. So basically, we have the regions, and in the regions, we have the availability zones. So let me use even Ghana as an example. So Ghana can be a region once AWS feels it's a good place to come and set up. And once Ghana is a region, usually they would always want to have at least 2 or 3 availability zones. Now, the availability zones are the different, they will look at different cities in the region, that's the country, okay, to put different data centers which are still physically apart. So if Ghana was a region on AWS, you can have an availability zone or a data center in, let's say, Accra. We can have another availability zone or data center in Kumasi. So that is the idea about regions and availability zones. So you technically have your servers in different places, or your applications in places which are geographically dispersed, okay? And the whole idea is to build availability so that if you have your web application, let's say, deployed in the Ghana region in Accra, you don't want it only in Accra, you want to also probably deploy the same application in Kumasi as well. And then you can load balance, you can have a load balancer in front of it to distribute traffic evenly between Accra and Kumasi, so that should in case something happens to Accra, probably the data center in Accra gets flooded and Kumasi is fine. Kumasi can still serve your customers, although Accra is flooded. Your customers do not know that your application in Accra has an issue. And for them, once they hit a certain domain, they are still getting the service, okay? But imagine you did an application and it's serving only people in Accra and is hosted in Accra, and something happens to the data center or the availability zone in Accra, all of a sudden you would have, your application will go down, okay? So the idea about region and availability zone is mainly for application availability, so that you can have redundancy across different places in case of regional or availability zone disasters, which sometimes the AWS themselves cannot control. I mean, imagine there's an availability zone in, let me just say, even South Africa, as it is now, and we have a certain major natural catastrophe in, let's say, Joburg. Maybe one of the availability zones was in Joburg, and you are hosting in Joburg. And for like over a month, they are not able to recover. Maybe there's a hurricane and it has just tore things down. And yeah, I mean, they don't have control over that. So for you to make sure that your application is up and still serving clients, you want to have a replica in another availability zone in the same region, or you can even do multi-region. So it's in two levels. In the same region, you can have your redundancy across availability zones. So you can also say across cities, so like Accra and Kumasi, or you can go the level of multi-region. So and multi-region is mostly applicable when your application is kind of serving different regions or it's global, okay? So then you can have another setup in, what do we call it? Let's say South Africa. So when your things in Ghana goes down, you still have South Africa app and it's still serving. So that is the idea about regions and availability zones. So you have the power to distribute wherever you want your applications to be. Yeah, just as other people have raised their hands, let me just show you this to give you a perspective of what the regions really are as far as. So right now I'm in Ireland, okay? Now EC2, yeah, we would have come to this, but EC2 is basically where you can create your own virtual private server, almost like GoDaddy. You want a certain server, blah, blah, blah. So this is it. So I have a server in Ireland. So you can see my server in Ireland. There's a server called C3U80, okay? Now, if I can decide to change regions, let me go to Oregon. If I go to Oregon, you realize that I have no servers in Oregon, okay? I have absolutely no servers in Oregon, but you can see no instance in Oregon. So you can see how you can do things in different regions, and based on how you want to architect your application, you can have something here and something there. I'll just quickly go on and just create something. We'll later go through these things just to give a practical view of regions. I will just launch an instance right here in so in fact I'm creating an instance right now in Oregon. So you would see that I now have an instance which is pending, is loading, is getting created, and I can go back to, I know I have another instance already set up in Ireland. So right now I'm back in Ireland. My thing is getting set up in Oregon as well. So I hope this gives a good perspective about what regions are. So like I'm saying, in regions, we have availability zones, which are physically separated data centers. And obviously we have at the regional level also, you can do one thing in one region or the other. Yeah. Okay, so who asked the question? I just want to be sure you are fine with the explanation.
Yeah, I'm fine. But then initially I was thinking that depending on the regions, then let's say if I select a region in US, if I'm in Accra, I can't access that any file or anything in that region. Is that so?
No, that's not so. So
Okay.
as you can see, I'm in Ireland right now. Okay, so this is Ireland. I have a server here, C3UAT. I just created something else. Which region did I even create this in? Oregon, I think. So let me go to Oregon. I have this server also being created in Oregon. Okay, I can give it a name. I didn't give it a name. Let me just call this a demo server. Technically, once I have this, I can connect to the server. Okay, I can connect to this server here, the server in Oregon, and then I can also come to the server in Ireland, and then also connect to this server. Anything which is you have created as far as the account is concerned in any region, you can connect to it. You are not limited to, they are not limited based on your geography or your location. That is the power AWS gives, and yeah, you can address the world right from this single interface. Is that okay?
Can I just add a little bit to that?
Yeah.
So,
right.
so the main reason why you have the regions, and Edwin mentioned this in the beginning when he was talking about regions, was latency. So it's one of the reasons why you have regions. So how close you want it to your users is if you're able to segment your applications across regions, it improves the latency, even though it might not be so obvious to you, but sometimes has an impact on how quickly the application is served. And so, for instance, even though there's a Cape Town region, there's a region in South Africa, in Cape Town. Ideally, your best option is to put your application in the Europe region, as that is if you are in Ghana, because that's the closest region in order for you to serve your applications much faster.
Yeah. All right, Kelvin, thank you. Are you, is it much better?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. But yeah, feel free, and yeah, you can always engage after the event. We can have a lot more discussion. Guys, understand that the community is here to, our first aim is to answer your questions, clarify your concerns, and get you going. Okay. All right. Pierre, you had a question, I think, before I come to Emmanuel. Yeah, Pierre, take it away.
Okay. My question is, let's say it's a general thing that has been bothering me for quite some time. Now, almost all the people that I engage in, okay, let's say people that I know on the Slack channel, most of them deals with, let's say, developer. Everybody that is in AWS is basically doing either programming, So like I asked myself, what if I don't know anything about programming? Would I be able to, like steady like do it in the cloud without me touching any code or programming something? Is it possible?
Yeah, Pierre, that's a very good question. In fact, so I mean, I can even use myself as a use case. Currently, I don't do any development. Okay, I don't program, if I may put it. Okay. So yeah, you don't need to be a developer to be able to make use of AWS. Okay. First of all, even when you look at the host of services, developer tools is just what? A segment. Okay. Developer tools is just a segment. You have this whole other set of things which might not necessarily be developer related. Okay. Now, even when you look at the AWS certifications, there are paths. There's the operations part, there's the developer side, there is the architecting. Okay, when you are doing architecting, you don't need to know any language technically. Okay, you can advise architectures, you can speak to applications, and you don't need to write a single line of code. Okay. Also, when you take things like people who are doing media related stuff, some streaming or providing some service of the sort, I mean, you don't need to be a developer to be able to make use of AWS. Okay. It is just that for a number of the things, it's almost like you need, mostly also depending on your service, you might want, if you are providing a service to somebody, there will always be something you need to do to be able to provide like some interface or some front end for which your customers will interact with your service. For example, you can build something like Dropbox right on AWS. Okay, the storage, when I go to storage, okay, you can use S3. Okay, that's a simple storage service to host any kind of file, and the size limit is actually limitless. But you can do this in S3 without any programming or whatever. You can do your setup and whatnot. But now, how do people come and interact with the service? Obviously, they will need to come to a certain front end. So that is where you might need some web skills to build some front end, which they can register and say, okay, I want to use this service, but you behind the scenes, that front end is talking to some API, which now interacts with S3 to be able to provision what storage they want. And when they want to upload, you have that API talking to S3 behind the scene. So technically, I mean, you could have also given, you can also create users on your account where probably you've set up this storage service and giving them direct access to S3. Okay, depending on your use case, without having to go through any other service. But most of the time, if you are doing something which is more, if you are really giving a service to the public, then obviously you want to have the front end to manage clients and how they interact with your service. If it's a very closely knitted use case where maybe you are managing the infrastructure for a certain company or group of companies, and they all need to use a certain specific service, storage service, yeah, I mean, you can technically create users for them on your account. So technically, once you have this account, you can create users on your account. It's unlimited anyway. You are not charged for users you create. You can create users and they can come and access, what do we call it? Your S3 service or your storage service. Okay. So it's just that most of the time, there is a marriage between the services and when you want to expose the service. Okay. Pierre, does that help? Pierre, are you good?
Yes, yes, I'm good. I'm very good. Yes, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. We can always have extra convos around. Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
you don't need to be a developer at all. Like I said, I'm a good example. Those I work with can speak of it. I don't write any code. I'm just managing infrastructure and um, and then also orchestrating how things should go. Okay, yeah. All right, so I think we have a number of hands. Unfortunately, I can't. Yeah, I know Emmanuel Ofer raised earlier. So, Emmanuel, can you ask your question, please? Everybody will get to ask their question. Yeah, Emmanuel, are you ready?
Yes. Okay. About that, with the services. Now, if an organization wants me to have this storage a file with this AWS,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to use S3, right?
Okay.
So I want to know if there's should there be a need for a front end, an interface for them, or I can do anything with from the back end to help them? And after developing it for them, will I be in charge helping them with the uploading of new files? It's supposed to be like they want to keep their files there so that other places, other staff from other everywhere in Ghana can access the file. Okay, so should there be is it advisable to get the front end, or if I don't want to do the front end for them, is it advisable for me to be at the back end, or recruiting someone in their agency to be at the back end doing that for them? And which of them is the best? Is it tedious doing it at the back end? I want to know how all those things.
Okay, Emmanuel, yeah, I'll just need a little clarity. So what is your use case again? What do you seek to achieve, or what do the people want?
Okay, a file, let's say
Yes.
a book file or
Okay.
series like different books.
Yes.
Okay, where they want to achieve, they want to send to their employees all over Ghana.
Okay, they want their
So they
employees
want,
to access
yes,
like some files over the net.
yes,
Okay, basically.
with yes, using AWS.
That's
Okay, yeah.
that's perfect.
So
Yeah.
I want to
So.
know whether
Sorry, go
I
on.
want to know whether you can do it without having an interface on the front end. You can do it from the back end for them. So that doesn't mean that anytime, if I don't do an interface for them, doesn't mean that anytime they want to upload a file or they want to retrieve a file, and they must go through me, or they can do it easily when after I develop everything for them and I leave it for them. Can they do it on their own, or I have to be there? I want to know.
Yeah, okay. All right. So thank you very much. That's a very good use case. In fact, we will do we will do some quick demo on this. So I will create a bucket right now. So the bucket is like the simple storage service of AWS. I will share a link. We'll see it happen right now. I'll share the link, and everybody will be able to access what I put in the bucket, okay, or the storage place. So it can be as easy as that, okay, where I will just create the storage area, put my stuff there. In fact, technically, let's first go through that process. Then it helps answer the or helps answer the following things, or what your other options can be. Okay, so I will just create this bucket right now. I'll call this AWS demo. The name does not matter too much. It just needs to be what do we call it? It just needs to be unique. I would make sure this bucket is public because I'm trying to create something that all of you can access files from. So I will uncheck block all public access. Ideally, AWS advises that you do not create public buckets. So right now you can see they are telling me that disabling block all public access may result in this bucket and the objects within becoming public. So if anybody has the URL to your bucket and whatnot, they can technically list your bucket, download whatever is in it and whatnot. So I mean, later on in other events, when we begin to look at storage services in more depth and whatever, you can have control over who can access what, and even you can have different folders, and you can set the permissions such that someone can access a specific folder, they can't access the others, or maybe your storage area can only be accessed programmatically, so only from an application. You can't come straight to it unless you actually have access to the AWS account and you are authenticated, and you can come to the front end like this and access it. So I'll just go ahead. Yes, I'm just creating a public bucket for this. So I'll go ahead, create buckets. It's as simple as that. So when I have my bucket, AWS demo, blah, 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 I will go ahead and upload a file to this bucket. Let me just find a file, some file I can use from my, find a simple file I can use. Okay, so I will just put the poster of this event there. Let's say I want to share the poster for everybody. So I'm uploading. So you can see you technically have a front end to upload your files to the storage service. You can also upload by SDK. That is from an application. Let's say you build a backend and someone can go and upload the file from your backend. You can also upload by CLI. So the command line, you can address AWS services from the command line. So there's a certain command you can type and then you push your file to this same bucket. So we can all see my file is here now, okay? So all I'll do is, let's say I want to give the link for the file. Let me hit on this. And then you have the object URL here. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to share with the whole group. A second, let me find where I can get you guys. Participants. Wow. Yeah. Where is the chat? Where's the chat? A second, trying to get it. Okay, I need to change my view. Okay. Okay, guys, a second. The view I am now, I'm trying to find my chat. Okay, perfect. I have my chat here. Okay, so I'm going to send this to everybody right now. All right, so guys, go ahead and hit this link. If you hit this link, let me just hit it myself here. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, yeah, there's something I'll need to do. You will be getting an access denied. So I just need to give it some permission. A second. Yeah, these guys, they still didn't make my bucket fully public. So yeah, AWS will do everything to make sure that your bucket is not public. But I'm going to tell them that, look, just make my bucket public. Yeah, those guys will warn me. They will warn you severally. Yeah. Okay, so right now, if we go back, you realize that, in fact, when your buckets are fully public, you can see access. It shows that your access to this bucket is public. So let me try and hit this link again. Okay, so yeah, this is what is happening. Because I had already uploaded it before I applied the permission, it would not apply to it, but now I'll make that one too public. But once I upload newer things next time, it will take effect. Okay, so once we hit the URL now, we should see the image load. We are getting the image now, right? Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, so that is how easy you can just see how quickly I created a bucket. I put some files there and then you are gone. In fact, technically, you can use this. I use this to share files to people all the time. And listen, this can take petabytes of data. When we say petabytes, it's the next level after gigabytes. So your movies and whatever, if you want, you can come and put them here. If you have a movie you cherish and you don't want to ever miss it, or you want to share with somebody else, this is also a way, okay? But then there may be associated storage costs, okay? I can tell you that storage cost is one of the cheapest costs on the cloud. You might be paying something like 10 cents You know what 10 cents is? 10 cents is almost like 50 pesos, okay, for maybe a month, for storing maybe a 100 gig file on the cloud or on the bucket, okay. We will later come and look at, in fact, the free tier and then the differences in what you can do to still maintain yourself in free tier and whatnot. I think usually that is not clear for people to know if they want to stay free tier, what they need to do. We'll go through that link before the session ends. So yeah, Emmanuel, you can see how quickly. Anyway, Emmanuel, have you been able to access the file?
Yes, I have. I have been.
Perfect. So you see how quickly we were able to do that. I mean,
yes,
I can
but
just,
I realized
Mhm.
is okay for me. I didn't see any download option.
Oh,
from my side.
Yeah.
And
So
then also I feel I'm asking a lot of questions, but you guys should
no,
forgive me.
please. Listen, today, like I said, the format, I mean, I can tell you a lot more people are learning whilst we address people's concern. So yeah, I mean, that's
Okay,
the
thank you
format.
very much. And with
Right.
the private also, it looks like it's a bit secure. Like, will it be difficult to go private, or are the restrictions too much?
We are talking about if technically you don't want to make the packet public, but only give
Yes,
certain permissions to certain people or certain files.
exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
so so that's possible. You just would need to understand how the S3 permission works. Okay, so you can give permissions at the bucket level. So that's when we say the bucket, that's like the main thing where everything sits. You can give permissions at the object level. So the objects are the different things you actually put in a bucket. Okay, let me see whether I can even go to a different bucket. Yeah, so you can give permissions at the object level or the bucket level. Okay, so you can once you know what you're about, you can provide that kind of fine grain permissions. It's just that to do that, you need to understand S3. Okay, you need to understand how to do that on S3, and it's something you will need to learn. Okay, so yeah, so that's possible. So you can see how you can quickly do this, or you can still decide to have a certain API which will talk to. So any backend, whether PHP, Java, Python, whatever, there are SDKs which can talk to any AWS service. So from your Java, your PHP, or whatever, you can write code to be able to upload the file instead of coming to upload it from the console. So those options exist, and that is how you can make. Yeah, you have these options to make this happen. But like I said, depending on your use case and how flexible you need things to be, and what your security requirements are, what your security requirements are and all that, then you can decide how to go. Now, understand that when your file has loaded in the browser like this, to be able to save this file is just a matter of save as, and then this image will be saved. For other browsers, it might just download it immediately. That's more of a browser behavior, okay? It's just like when you open PDFs online. Once the PDF is open, you can technically save that PDF and whatnot. Yeah. And then, yeah, right from the bucket, once you've given somebody access, you can always come. Let me go to that bucket. You can always come, and then once you select it, you have the download button here. You can download your file. Okay. Yeah, Emmanuel, good for now.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Yeah, we can talk more S3 after the event. Okay. Yeah, so we have a couple more hands up. We'll try and push the questions quickly now so that we can get everybody sorted. Okay, so I think Benjamin, Benjamin, you can ask your question.
Okay, this is related to Perry's question. That's about he said most of us were developers and others, and from your explanation, you gave an example under people who can be operating and others architecting. Is there a clear roadmap to in AWS to these fields? Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So yes, there is a very clear roadmap. So let me just try and go to AWS certifications. Let me go to Google AWS certification. Yeah. So you can see right from AWS certification that there is, let me zoom into this one. In fact, maybe I should come. Okay, let me be here. Yeah. So there is learning paths. Okay, there is learning paths. AWS believe in speciality, as we all see now. These days, you want to specialize something and not be jack of all trades and master of none. You can be master and begin to master and master, but you don't try and learn everything at once. You won't be master in any of them. So there is the architecting path. So if you look over here, you realize that this path, oh my, sorry, I mistakenly unshared my screen. Let me come back. Yeah, so I wanted to annotate. Yeah, so over here, you realize that this is an architecting path, okay? This is an architecting path. This is like a developer path. Hey, this is an operational path, and this is a developer path. So if you look at architecting, you see has nothing to do with development. Architecting and if we go ahead and look at the details of what architecting or the architecting exam requires, you realize that it has nothing to do with, let me stop annotating and okay. Yes. Okay. So all right. So I've entered into architecting. Okay. When you look at architecting, you realize that look at what it recommends. Hands-on experience using compute, networking, storage, and databases. AWS deployment and management. Identify technical requirements for AWS-based applications. Understand AWS global infrastructure. In fact, so when you read all of this, it has nothing about what? Developing, okay? If you even go to the professional level of architecting, the requirements are still, there is no development related. There's nothing which is development related. 2 more years, designing and deploying, very key, designing and deploying cloud architecture, ability to evaluate cloud application requirements, make architectural recommendations for implementation, deployment, and provisioning on AWS. We will not go through all, but this will give you a sense of what is required. I mean, so understand this. So operations is also related to things you do to make sure that your applications are up and running when they have been architected. Okay, so the main difference between architecture and operations is architecture deals with strategizing how the thing should be deployed, and once it is deployed, operations is what the day-to-day making sure that databases are being archived when they are growing too long. I mean, servers also go down, so you want to implement things to enforce self-healing, auto-scaling, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, those are all different concepts around operations, okay? So at this point, we've not even talked about any development, okay? Now, when you come to developer now, then yes, you can come to and talk about. So in-depth knowledge of at least one high-level programming. You can see that they are also advising you not to be, not to try and learn every programming language and not master any of them. Okay, so be very good in a certain programming language. If it's PHP, be very good in PHP. If it's Python, if it's Java, be very good in it. Once you are good in it, you are good to play that role very well. I mean, once you master that, you can obviously continue and add other languages when they need be. Okay, but the key thing here is to be good in one. Obviously, when it comes to front end, you can't just be good in CSS and not know any HTML. Those ones they are married together. So you have to know the CSS, HTML, and your JavaScript. That's for front end. You make an exception for that. Okay, but when it comes to backend, if it's Java, PHP, you just need to be good in that. And obviously, there's the full stack paradigm too. Once you are full stack and you are good in that, you are good in that. So yeah, you can also read the other things about developer here. You can see that developer also, an AWS certified developer also expects you to understand some core services about AWS, and then the strategy to implement pipelines, how you interact with the AWS service, ability to apply basic understanding of cloud native applications. You know, these days, gone are the days where you say, oh, I'm just a developer. You know, right now, that if you are just a developer, you are not going to get, yeah, it's not going to be interesting for you anymore, because right now the cloud is the future. And if you look closely at the global industries and what developer job descriptions are right now, there is always a bit of requirements about understanding the cloud and be able to speak to certain things as far as the cloud is concerned. You might not be an architect, you might not be technically a DevOps person, but you need to have a sense of what it entails when your when your code goes out, how it's supposed to, how you are supposed to even do things, knowing that this is how it will be deployed and how you need to make sure you write it in a certain way for it to scale and all that. So right now, you can't just be a developer and have no knowledge about the cloud. You'll be shooting yourself in the foot, or there are certain opportunities you can't get, or you can't grow to a certain level. Okay. Yeah. So Ben, you can also see then there are the specialty courses. There are data analytics. You can be certified in just databases, because you can be a DBA primarily on AWS. Okay, because understand that there are a host of the Oracles, the MySQLs, the Microsoft SQLs, they are all on AWS. When we go to the data, when we go to the databases, let me just come to the databases here. We have RDS, that's our relational database. Dynamo is a NoSQL database. Elastic Cache is your key store. The Redis, the Memcache is also categorized under a database. You have Neptune. Neptune is a graph database. Redshift is also a kind of database, usually deals with streaming data. We have Amazon Quantum Ledger database, also another level of database. We have the Document DB. Document DB is the version of MongoDB, Mongo compatible DB on AWS. So if you have MongoDB, you want to migrate to AWS and you want to keep the Mongo stack, you can use Document DB. Then you have Amazon Key Spaces. In fact, I don't know about Key Spaces. I'm here to explore what Key Spaces are. But yeah, so the database specialty, for example, certification, will test your knowledge of be able to administer and manage all these different kinds of databases. So it even gives you more leverage than a regular DBA who might just know Oracle or might just know MySQL. Okay, so then you have the machine learning, you have Alexa skill, you have security. So once you're a security person, you can grow your specialty in security. And then yeah, right now networking has nothing to do with routers and switches anymore. I mean, I'm not a traditional networking guy. I mean, I can do some basic wireless configurations with routers and whatever. But I primarily learned networking in the cloud. And networking in the cloud is different and it's exciting and you are not limited. I mean, you can sit in your house and create some nice network and do all sorts of interesting things. You don't need to go and purchase any router. You don't need to go and buy switches. I can create a certain network. I can give access to different servers in different networks. And what? I'm doing all this right at the comfort of one console, okay? So the networking, when we come to the networking bit, let me just come to networking bit of this. Yeah, so networking and content delivery. So VPC is your main thing for networking. That's the virtual private cloud. That's where you can go and you can create all kinds of networks. I can create 3 different kinds of networks with different availability zones, VPNs, blah, blah, blah. You can always go there and get knowledge about these things. You have CloudFront, API Gateway, Route 53 manages your domains, blah, blah. So Ben, as you can see, AWS themselves have categorized this thing based on paths and speciality, okay? So if you're architecting, there's a path for you. If you are doing operations, there's a path for you. You start with operations and then you can later, if you want to be DevOps, then you add a bit of development or learn a certain language plus your operations, and then you become DevOps. If you are a developer and you are still you still want to be relevant as far as the cloud is concerned, you can be DevOps or you can still be developer, but still have a good understanding on the AWS services and whatnot relating to your development work. Okay. So Ben, I hope this answers your question, and I'm sure it has given other people a lot more clarity because this comes up often. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. So to Fifi, yeah, Fifi, you can ask your question.
It's more of a contribution to Nathaniel's question. Was it Nathaniel who was asking about the storage S3?
Yeah, Emmanuel, I think. Yeah.
Emmanuel, okay. So another way you could do this, and Edwin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is so you need to understand the various permissions on the S3, as Edwin explained, and as advised, you don't need to make your files or documents public, but then you can create a service account that has the required permission from the IAM policies and compliance place. And then, so this service account will have the required permissions that you want. And then you can create an application, a front end, using the API, depending on whatever language you're using, but there are APIs that can certainly call these, the S3 using that service account that you would have created. And that makes it very easy for you not to expose your S3 to the public domain. And then you can have your own fine-tuned or granular permissions depending on what the various roles should be for that particular company.
Yeah. All right. So Fifi, yeah, thank you for the addition. So Vincent, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to make a contribution.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to add that AWS have some services which are global. So when we are talking about regions, we created certain servers in specific regions. Like we created a server in Ireland, we created a server in Oregon. So for that service, EC2, you can see it is region specific. But we have AIM, which is a global service. So that is not constrained to a particular region. And I also found from experience that you could be trying to do something in a region and you try to use a certain service and you are told that maybe this service is not available in this region. So you could have some services on the cloud that you're trying to use that may not be available in the region you're in. So when you're trying to architect your infrastructure, you have to pay some kind of attention to what services are available in what region.
Yeah. In fact, that's a good point. I think I even missed. So, in fact, in choosing the region, not all services are available in all the regions. Okay. So, yes, you want to make sure that the services you might make use of are available in the region you choose. So, in fact, it's one of the reasons why we will mostly choose Ireland, because Ireland is one of the regions which provides good latency for us in Ghana or Africa, and then also the good cost. And then Ireland also would have the latest updates. When there are new services, Ireland is one of the regions which will get it early enough, as well as the US regions, Oregon, and then North Virginia and the likes, Ohio. Okay, so yeah, that's a very good addition. Or you might go and put something in, let's say, somewhere Asia, Mumbai, and then you now want to create some automated deployments, but then you realize that there are no pipelines. The pipeline service is not there. That's the service you can use to do CI/CD, continuous integration and deployment, and yeah, all of a sudden that will be a bummer. Then you now have to figure out what you need to do. Probably have to go and deploy your thing again on another region. Yeah, so thank you very much for that contribution. Okay, all right. I can't see the chat immediately, but I think, if I'm not wrong, we have exhausted the questions. Am I right? Is there anybody I had not brought up? Okay, all right. So I think we've exhausted the question. Yeah, I really like the questions, and yeah, I mean, this provides a lot of learning for you who asked the question, and others who also would have asked similar questions or had similar concerns. Okay, so that was good. All right. So in fact, through the questions, we have covered a couple of services anyway. But yeah, like Vincent said, S3, for example, is a global, yeah, some of the services which are global. When you go there, you will see that it's not region specific. Okay, the service is not region specific. So we have the global here, but technically for S3 or the storage service, you still, when you create the bucket, it still creates it in a region for you. Although over here, it's the service itself is not global. It's not region specific. The other service you spoke about is IAM. So IAM, it's what do we call it? This service. So IAM is basically where you manage users and then manage permissions. So as the service says, it's your identity and access management. So if you want to create users for people, this is where you come to. So as you can see, I have some 4 users on my account. There's an Alfred, there's myself, there's a Jerry, there's a user we created for a certain application, Lex. Yeah, so this is where you create the users, and once you create users, you can give them permissions. So you can see all the permissions. You can create custom permissions, or you can come and choose permissions from, what do we call it? The list of permissions we have here. So you can see the whole host of permissions. You can always search. I mean, there are a lot of preset permissions, so you can always go through. In case, let's say you are creating a user and you want to give them ability just to be able to create repositories and access the repositories and whatnot, that will be code commit. So we can give them code commit power user. Code commit power user will be able to do everything with code commit or the repositories, but would not be able to delete a repository. When you give code commit full access, it means they will be able to delete your repositories as well. So you might want to only give this to somebody you think is going to manage a team of developers or whatsoever. Okay, otherwise you are good doing the power user. If you have somebody you just want to come and visualize your code or just look at it, you might just want to give them code commit read only. Okay, yeah. So let me quickly go to, let me just quickly talk a bit about the developer tools, and then we'll come and talk a bit about the free tier, how to have the account and make sure that you can be free for a good time or understand what you are doing. So let me come to developer tools. Let me just come to code commits. I'll just, yeah. So like I said, code commits is basically the GitHub version of in AWS. Okay, you can see I have two repositories here. I have a Care Cleaner website repository. I have a browser wars repository. I mean, I can always open the repositories and look at whatever code is in them. Almost, I mean, just like GitHub. Okay, you can technically even browse. What do we call it? Your code itself. In fact, it even gives you ability to edit your code right in place. Okay, instead of going through, let's say, checking out and now committing your code. If you want to do a quick edit, you can do that. But I mean, we all know that for the proper development strategies, you want to clone the repository, and then you can do the Git commits and the Git related stuff. So yeah, that's it. I have another repository here. Yeah, so I have another website repository here. So it has my assets, I mean, just like any other regular repository. So just wanted to show this. So I mean, to create a repository is very straightforward. You just come here, create repository. I can call this repository demo. So here we are still under code commit service. You can give a description for your code commit, your repository. We can leave these ones blank. And then you create. So we know we've created a new repository, it's empty. So let's say you are going to give, let me just say I'm going to give Perry access to this repository because he needs to do some work for me. Okay. We will now go to, I just want to show how to create a repository and create a user to be able to access that repository. Okay. So we will come to IAM. I've created a repository, but I now need to create the user and give him the permissions to access the repository. So that's where I'll come here. So I will create a user. Let me just say Perry. So Perry, as a user, you know, we have access types. Your user would either be programmatic or would have console access. Okay. For this one, he just needs console access. For the most of it, personalized users will be using console access. Programmatic users is when you are creating a user who needs keys to be able to access your application resources programmatically. So that is where you'll be creating programmatic users. But this guy is just coming to, he will come in with a username and password to access the repository. So create him as programmatic. You can decide to auto-generate the password or create a custom password for it. Yeah, you can have this checkbox to get the user to reset their password once they get it. We'll go ahead, and at this point, you now provide the permissions for the user. Okay, so this guy, I want to give Perry clearly code commit power user. Okay, I can create more fine-grained permissions. Okay, now understand that at the heart of this, let me expand this a bit. So at the heart of the code commit, I don't know why my thing is scaled so down. Okay, let's not worry about that for now. But at the heart of all the permissions is actually JSON. Is that the permissions are technically stored in JSON, and you can create your own policy. You just need to understand IAM and see how to create specific permissions and whatnot. We will do other events specifically on these other services. So we'll do IAM, we'll do S3, we'll do that. But yeah, in the meantime, you can always engage, and if you have any concerns, we can guide you on how to learn this. So I've given him code commit power user. I'll go ahead. I'm not going to do any tags for now. You can ignore tags. We'll later learn what tags are really for. So I'll go ahead and then create his user. Now, yeah, so if I'm going to send Perry these details, I'll just download this CSV. So once I've downloaded it, if he gets it, he will have the details to connect to be able to log into this console. But for code commit, what we will mainly want to do is to come to Perry, come to his security credentials, okay? And then generate, we would like him to clone the repository or access the repository via Git, okay? So we'll come and generate Git credentials for code commit. Good. So it is these credentials I can now download and share with Perry to be able to access this, what do we call it? Repository. So let me just open let me just open the credentials. So this one is for login. Can we see the credentials, or we are just seeing the, we are still seeing just the browser?
We are seeing the browser.
Okay, yeah, I think it's the way I'm sharing. But yeah, so basically, it will have the Git username and the Git password, and that is what you share for, what do we call it? The user, that is Perry. So once I've given that to Perry, he can come and get the repository URL. As you can see, this is the repository URL. And once you come to clone HTTPS, you have the repository URL, and then you can basically just, you can connect to it and then push code to this repository, okay? I will just, okay, I mean, this is fine. We don't have too much time. I would have actually sent Perry's user to him, and he could just, once he's okay with Git, he can clone the repository and then push some files to a repository, and we could have all seen it. But I believe we get how it goes, okay? I mean, we can try our hands on these things outside the event, and if we have any challenges, we can feel free and put it in the help section. We'll be willing to jump on and then help you address them, okay? So at least we've got a good idea how to create a repository and assign somebody else. Maybe you have some friends you want to work on a project with. Yeah, you can as well use AWS code commit to achieve this, okay? Any questions on that, on the developer side, the getting the repository, giving permissions to the repository or the user? Okay, Vincent, I don't know if this is an old hand you still have up or whether it's a new one.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, Ima, please go on. We don't have enough time, so let's be quick.
Sorry, I think my network was messing up. So this side, I didn't really get it well. Can I chat to you later for
Yes,
better
yes.
clarification.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, thank you very much. My
All right.
network was messing up.
That's fine, Ima. That's fine. All right. So we'll just now quickly look at the AWS free tier. What we need to do if we want to maintain our account free. But guys, you also need to know that at a certain level, once you want to get certain knowledge and grow it can't always be free. But it is worth knowing and having control over what your bill will be. Okay. Now I can go to even my bill for this. I can come to. So if you want to check your bill under your what do we call it? Under your account, you come to billing dashboard. Yeah, you can see my bill is at what 0.00. They forecasted that I might pay what 1.9 what dollar by the end of month. Okay, I can go back and be sure why they think so, and I can check if I want to do something and make sure that I don't have any bill. You can see last month I have no bills. I can go back and you realize that I've never had bills for a very long time. I've had bills before because I created certain things. I knew I would be billed and I needed them, so I had to do it. So yeah, this is just to give you a fair idea. But let me come back to free tier. So we sent this link in our communications. It's still on the chat group. But this is where you can get to know that when you create the account, the things you are doing that will keep you at the free. And if you are going to do anything which will not be free, you will know. And in fact, when you are even creating the service and whatnot, they show you clearly what is free and what is not. So over here, I think the easiest way to go is to come and choose the services you might want to make use of. So I'll go to developer tools for now. So I've come to developer tools, okay? Now, developer tools, when we see code commit, so you can have 5 active users on your code commit, 5 users, 50 gig of storage per month, and then 10,000 git requests per month. And you would, once you are within this limit every month, it will always be what? Free. You can see. This is where I get this information myself to know. Okay. Now, code build. We didn't even do code build, but it's a service if you want to do automated deployments, like for applications like Java, where it will automatically take the source code and then build a jar out of it and whatnot. You can do 100 builds in a month and it will be free. CloudWatch basically is where you can stream logs to. So AWS has a service for streaming logs, almost like Elasticsearch and those other similar services. So you can see that you can have 10 Amazon CloudWatch custom metrics and alarms and whatnot. You can see the details. You can have dashboards and other things, and you would not be billed for it. You can have one pipeline. The pipeline is what basically allows you to do the automated deployment. I think I have a pipeline on this account. I'll just show what that looks like. You have, so when you do the pipelines, it stores the code is going to deploy somewhere. You can have 2 gig of that and you will not have to pay anything. So those are for developer tools. Let's even go for databases. You can technically create Amazon RDS database. It should be a T2 micro, and then it can run for 750 hours per month. So once your database runs is within the 750 hours per month, you would not be billed for it. So one advice I can give is usually for the databases and all this, you want to, if you are especially experimenting and learning, you can spin it up, use it. If you don't need it immediately, you just delete it, because you can always spin up again. You are not being charged for how many times you spin up and delete, spin up and delete. You only be charged if you have created it and it's up and running. So the period is up and it's still running. That's where your hours begin to accumulate. But I mean, 750 hours is a lot of hours for you to keep, unless you are doing something major and you are getting money off it. Then maybe you might as well start paying and have something set up well for you. Yeah, so in fact, you can even do some DynamoDB, that's the NoSQL. You can have some Redis for 750 hours. So guys, you need to spend time and understand the things you can do for which you won't attract, what do we call it, billing for. So EC2 is the server. In fact, we'll quickly look at the server before we go. It's 1 o'clock already. So 750 hours for the EC2. So you can see it's almost similar like the database. So what it's saying here is if you create a T2 micro EC2, that's the kind of server, and it's running for 750 hours or less, you would not be charged anything for it. Okay. Now Lambda is the serverless, what do we call it, application, or running your code without servers. So it's telling you that you can create a Lambda, you are not going to be charged for the Lambda, and you can even do up to 1 million free requests per month. So, I mean, that is a lot. If you really will surpass 1 million requests per month, then it means that you are running an application which really you are driving very good traffic. So clearly, you should be making some money, and obviously you want to be paying AWS and infrastructure costs. Okay. So yeah, I mean, Lambda is a good way to test your code without having to even understand servers and whatnot. I mean, we'll do events on all this, but you can always feel free and ask some questions around it. So yeah, I'm not going to go through all of that, but you have this link. It was part of the communication. It's on the Slack group. You can feel free and then look at the different things and how you can keep yourself free. Lastly, I've come to the storage. Now, S3, it says you can keep 5 gig of standard storage and you would not be billed for it. You can do 2,000, 20,000 get, put request, blah, 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 blah. So guys, go through and then you can see how you can filter between the different product categories, see how you can remain free for a very good time. And please, if you've not created your account already, please create a free account. This is hands-on. You need to do the thing. If you get stuck, you can seek help. But to grow your knowledge, it's hands-on. The knowledge has to be hands-on. Okay. Before I come back to the board and we wrap up shortly. I wanted to just quickly talk about EC2. So EC2 is where you can go and create your service. Okay. So I already have one server running. I mean, I can connect to this server. I can easily connect to this server. So let me just, if you want to connect to the server, this is a Linux server. So to connect to this server, I mean, I'm using a Mac, so it's easy to just do the terminal. But based on whatever you are using, you can, okay, so I think I would have to switch how I'm sharing my screen. Otherwise, you will never see this. So let me stop sharing and switch to my terminal, or I think I'll just share my screen for now, my whole desktop for now to make it easier. Okay, let me just do the terminal, I think. All right, so we can see the terminal. I have my certificates. You know, you have to connect to AWS via certificates. So I have my certificates in this what do we call it? In this folder, I can list. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of certificates. I manage a lot of infrastructure. So I will clear, And I already copied the connection string to this. So I would enter, and then, yeah, I've connected to this server right now. So I'm in the server. So yeah, I mean, this is how you connect to your server, pretty straightforward. I mean, it doesn't matter what region your server is in. I mean, once you created it and it's in your account, you can just SSH into your server, and you should be good to go. Let me switch back to my screen. Okay, I think I'll just share my desktop. Okay, yeah. Can we see the browser right now?
Yeah, we can see both.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so I'm sharing my desktop right now. It should be easier. So yeah, I just connected to this server, as you can see. And let me just quickly show you. So yeah, to show you, this server is actually, this server actually has a website running on it. I'm just copying the public IP. Let me see whether, yeah. So yeah, so I have some simple sites running on this server right now. I mean, I'll just even send the link so that, yeah, we just see this is a server I have. I've created a certain website. I'm hosting on that server. And yeah, it's as good as that. In fact, technically, I can go to the domain. I actually have bought a domain for this server, this website. So I can go to the domain. The domain management is in Route 53. I can come to Route 53, add a domain to this right now, and then we should be able to even hit it by the domain. So let me come to registered domains. Yeah, I have clearcarecleaner.com. I'll just copy. First of all, let me just come to add. Okay. Okay, in fact, technically, it's already on the domain. So let me come back to registered domains. It's still living up. This is just a one-pager I hosted for somebody. Yeah, so you can see I'm hosting this site on my account. It's just a simple one-pager. And the nice thing about this site also is that I actually am doing automated deployments to it. So let me go to pipelines. And as you can see, the code for this site is also on my AWS account. And you can see I'm doing all this and I'm not being charged a thing. Okay. Now, this is the pipeline for that site. So you can see this is what? C3. So this is the pipeline. So basically the source and then the deployment. So the deployment is when the thing is hitting the server, okay? So I can easily do, so what this, we'll do a lot more events, mostly about CI/CD or automated deployments, because that's, you can't be running your AWS and be doing manual uploading of code or Git pull. Yeah, and you have to try and do automated deployment, but the services provided, and for the most of it is free, unless you are doing like thousands and millions of automated deployments. So with what I've done, I can easily, for me to, what do we call it? I can easily come to the source. So the code, as you remember, is actually being hosted here. I can change something easily on this site, and then you would actually see it automatically deployed. In fact, let me just show that demo so that you can appreciate when I talk about some of these pipelines and automated deployments. And then later on, we can do other sessions about automated deployments and whatnot, and you can learn how it goes, or you can still engage and learn that. So let me just find out. I'll just want to, let me go back to the site. So let's say I just want to change the location. Instead of Lakeside, I will change the location to something else. So let me, ideally I should be doing this from probably some ID, but for just quick demo purposes, I will do that from here. Okay, so that's that part in my code. So let me edit this right from here. So, yeah, Lakeside Estates. So let's say right now it's not Lakeside and the business has moved to, yeah, let me just use something fictitious. Okay, let me say Ashoma Estates. Okay, so I've done this. I would now just author name Edwin, email Edwin at mail.com. I mean, I'm just doing something fictitious here. So yeah, so this is almost like git commit. So change address, and then I commit the change. Yeah, so this change has been committed. In fact, you can go to commits and then see the different things I've done as far as this, what do we call it? This repository is concerned. So you can see my new commit. You know, you can still do the branches, git tags, pull requests in case you want to review code. Yeah, so this is almost works just like it's Git underneath, and it works almost similar to GitHub anyway. So let's go back to our pipeline. This should have kicked in the pipeline. Yeah, perfect. So you can see that right now we have our code in progress. It is the update is getting deployed. Okay, you can see this is blue right now. You can see the last change source. So your git commit usually will come here. Okay, source changed address. It's in fact, so it's now green. So our deployment has happened. Let's confirm from the site whether it's really happened. You can see how quickly. Yeah, so we can see. Now it's changed to, in fact, I did estates, yeah. So we can see how quickly you can set up your site and how you can easily do changes to your site, okay, without having to go and enter the server and do all kinds of things. So this is a simple CI/CD pipeline or automated deployment, and yeah, something you can easily do on AWS as well. All right, guys, so I think we've gone past our time. It has been a very interesting section. Let me just check the charts to look at anything I might be missing. So yeah, Daniel is asking whether there will be a link for the session. So I will try and collate. Yes, I have recorded the session, but I will try and collect information about the session, and then we'll share after the event. So Daniel, yeah, we'll give you some information. Also, at this point, if we have some final questions, I want to quickly take them. I think we've spent a good time here. Some people had to drop off, but yeah, we still have a few people standing. Are there any questions before we wrap up?
Okay, mine is how to be free. You said free forever.
Yeah, Ben. Okay. So you have that link, right? You saw the link I went through, this one, AWS free. That link is available. We sent emails from the event page. The link was part of it. The link is also on the Slack group. It's aws.amazon.com/free, basically. That's where you can create a free account or also learn about how you can remain free. So when you come here, you can check always free. So always free, and then you can look at the things you make use of, and then it will tell you. So you can see how, so if you want to do always free, then you are doing lambdas, and then for the storage, what you can do, let me even go to developer tools. So developer tools, you can have 10 CloudWatch, 1 pipeline, 5 code, you know, so spend time and get this, but it still doesn't mean that you still can do, so you still have a 12-month free, and then you can look at the 12-month free and the things you can also do. So it's all in your hands. You can get information here and then see how you can remain free or remain free for 12 months, or how you, I mean, if you want to do testing and learning, you shouldn't attract cost at all, or worst case, less than $2 cost, depending on how far you want your learning to go and whatnot. So Ben, spend a lot of time and get some details based on what you want to learn. And then if anything is still not clear, you can always engage. We will guide you from the group, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I have another person's hand up. This is, please.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I just wanted to get some clarity on the free account, or staying free. Does it depend on where you create your account? Because I see that for this, you were at the aws.amazon.com/free.
Yes.
So does it depend on where you create your account? So if I just go to the AWS site and I create my account there, would I lose out on the, for example, for the 12 months free account?
Ideally not. Ideally not. Usually once you create an AWS account. So let's take note also that the AWS account is different from Amazon account. You know, there's the Amazon retail part.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So once it's an AWS account, you have the implied 12 months, and yes, it doesn't need to be specifically this link. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still implied. Yeah. But if you want to be, do you have an account already, Daniel?
Yes, I do. I have an account.
You have an account. When did you create the account?
Somewhere last year. So I'm not sure. I have to check whether I'm still enjoying.
So in fact, one of the simple ways to see the eligibility of, so when you created the account, did you create any resources or whatsoever?
Yes. So I think 2 months ago, I was charged for some resources. I think I had, there were some machines running that I forgot to shut down.
Exactly. That's always the problem.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I learned my lesson. So
exactly. You run the machines and forget about them. That is the problem.
Yeah.
Or you.
So that's why I thought because maybe I was still within the free period, I won't be charged. But
So you see, today you've learned that for the EC2, if it was a T2 micro, did you spin a T2 micro?
I think so. I'm not too
sure. Yes,
because
that one, it clearly tells you that one is free. Once it's a T2 micro and you don't do above the 750 hours a month, then it will be free. But I'm sure you left it and you forgot. So you did more than the 750 hours per month. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, once you get this knowledge now, and then you can better manage what your cost will be. Once you are learning, you really don't need to attract cost. But yeah, feel free to engage for further details, and based on what you want to experiment, you can always advise how you should go about it if some things are still not clear. But yes, you don't want to leave your things running because you want to keep yourself within the 750 hour per month, okay? And then one of the strategies is maybe there's a certain server you have done a lot of configurations on. So you just don't want to also delete it because later on you come and continue where you left off or do other things with it. You can clone the server. Okay, let me just show how to clone a server. So when you have the server highlighted, you come to, what do we call it? Come to image and then do create image. Okay, give it a name and a description if you want. And then you just say create image. Once you do this, it will create the image of the server and will keep the image.
We can see your screen.
Oh, you can't see this.
Okay, so I think I can see it now.
Okay. So yes, so you come under EC2, you come to AMIs. Okay. Yeah, so you can see my new image creating. I already have a certain image here, web server base. So this web server base, I've already installed Apache and all those things which are needed for a web server to run. So whenever I need to spin a web server, I don't need to go and now install them all over. I will just launch this this server I have cloned, okay? So understand that once you clone, then the only thing kicking in right now is storage. When you clone and you delete the server, this is storage. It will only attract storage cost. And I think the storage cost for the free tier, I mean, the storage cost, like I said, is very minimal. Let's even see what the storage. So yes, so technically what will happen is this will be stored on an elastic block storage. And look at what, you have what? Up to 30 gig. There's no way that server clone, in fact, the server I clone is like an 8 gig server, okay? So when you are cloning the server, you know the size of your server. So this is like 8 gig. So I'm nowhere even close. I can clone like 10 more servers, and I won't even still make the 30 gig mark, okay? So that is a good way to keep your certain configurations and settings about the server, delete the server, have the clone, and then when you come back, you can just continue from the clone, okay? Yeah. All right, guys. Any more questions? I don't see any hand up. Yeah, I think we've done over 2 hours. Yeah. So I want to thank you all very much. It has been a good event. I like the participation. I like the engagement, and I want to believe we've all learned a number of things as far as AWS is concerned. And if you really want to kickstart your journey on understanding the cloud, and now you should know that the cloud is not only for architects or people who are doing architecting or cloud or DevOps. Now for even the developer, the person who is more backend or front end, you also want to have the cloud skills, because right now it's a good to have, and you should be able to speak to things. And yeah, you can always create a free account and then have yourself get your hands-on knowledge on the thing. And once you follow the guides, you don't technically need to pay for whatever you are doing. So guys, I want to thank you all very much, and it has been a good session. We would we'll send details of the session, and we will have other sessions come up quickly where we are going to look at specific areas, and then we would tackle them. We will teach how to make use of those services. Feel free and throw suggestions on what you might want from other events on the Slack channel as well, and we'll be happy to jump on them. Okay, guys, so thank you all very much. Yeah, have a nice day.
Same to you.
Yeah, thank you.